What's your 10-second review of the Australian Grand Prix, having just watched it?
Like most Australian Grand Prix, good start, decent middle, sleepy end, but we were then on our feet and experiencing that end midway in person.
With the crowd as well, like it was something special. But yeah, definitely need to go back and watch, because we very confused even now. Like, I'm not entirely sure what happened. Get out of the way of this car coming through. We're walking the track at the moment, so it's been fun. But yeah, we'll watch it again, and then we'll do a debrief and we'll go from there. But yeah, hell of an experience this weekend. But, yeah. So we've come back and we've watched the race. We watched it live, and then we watched the replay to get our opinions.
Watched it live from home. Somehow.
Yes, yeah, we did both. Yeah, yeah, it was a bit of a crazy race to watch live. Didn't really understand it all. Really needed to watch the broadcast and hear all the opinions and
just
get
kind
all the
of
information.
step away from it and not get confused with what was going on, what people were saying.
Yeah, exactly. So and I think we've kind of come to a general consensus about what we think. There's still a few question marks, I think, that like a few nitpicky things that we'll probably go over. But I guess the first thing I want to say is, did you enjoy the weekend and the race?
So.
Yeah, it was good.
I think I may have taken a bit of the F1 flu home with me. But
yes.
we'll manage for now.
Yeah.
But for the weekend itself, no, it was good. It was probably would have liked it to be a little drier overall. Like, it wasn't that wet, and we were okay. You still felt bad for a few people, but you know, it wasn't that bad at all. And the race, it was great weather. So for everyone that turned up, it felt good.
Yeah.
And as an experience on the floor, I thought it was fantastic.
Oh,
I guess
unbelievable.
because I've been a few times, but I got a different perspective. But more importantly, I guess for you, going for your first ever time, it must have been.
Oh, it was unbelievable. Yeah, like I was saying, it's like the best first experience with the support categories and you know, the race that we had and the seats that we had. It's just like it all kind of came together to be a pretty unforgettable first experience in an F1 race. So, you know, regardless of how it all ended up at the end of the race, particularly those last sort of few laps in the last half an hour, 45 minutes, where the crowd sort of started to get involved and the atmosphere was again, regardless of what side of the fence you were on, the atmosphere was incredible. So it's definitely something I'd recommend to any fan out there to get yourself to race, because the atmosphere is it's kind of unrivaled. But we'll go over our thoughts on the race. I'm not really sure where to start, because obviously all the talking points are like right at the end. But
yes,
I don't know if we should start there, or if we should sort of start more back at like the very first laps.
I don't know. We can just go through a few points, I guess. I think we're starting to see a few stories that we started to pitch together in the first few weekends and are now coming to fruition. I think we've seen that Aston off the line seems very, very
They're
strong.
very good.
And the Red Bull really struggles off the line.
Yep.
We got so many restarts. We got to see 3 extra examples of that as well. So it's interesting to see how that plays out. Of course, with the long straights, further going over the fact that Red Bull, especially when it has a DRS and the car in front doesn't. I think someone did some stats. They said it was something like 35 k's faster if it has DRS, which is insane.
Considering like that's a long straight, but it's still not even the longest straight.
No, and it's not like it's a straight. There's a curve, so going around the outside, you are having to take more ground. It's not just a simple side by side.
Yeah.
And yet, so it was still nice to have a bit of a fight at the top. It was seeing George come through. I think when we started off, it was like last year we saw kind of it was Charles getting ahead and he just ran with it the whole time. And it was like, well, it was still nice to see. Nice it's not Max, but this, at least at the start, there was a bit of toing and froing. And, we had some excitement there. Until then, things started to kick off and take a different direction.
Yeah, I think I feel like you say this every other race. It's like, oh, what could have been? Because obviously it had George out in front went the alternate strategy, sort of pitted early for those hards. He ended up saying, like, regardless of what happened with the red flag, he said, you know what, it was the right choice, which I think it was.
Well, because he boxed under the. Was it really boxed under the safety car?
No, because the safety car calls the red flag after, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, I think they had a few laps under it. So I think he
genuinely
boxed
don't remember.
with that group, because that's why he didn't lose many positions. And the others stayed out.
That's
which
right.
Why we were thinking, well, if the hards can make it to the end.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he under the safety car and then it turned to a red flag.
Because a few other drivers got their tyres out the way, like Perez and Sargent. I think both boxed.
Yes.
They were on hards and they went to medium, then hard again to do the similar thing to try and go to the end.
There's so much crap that happened. It's hard to keep track of. Yeah.
So then we had that first accident. A real shame to see for Albon because it was
he
all
was
his
doing
own
well.
fault. He was up there, and we even saw like throughout the race how well the pace of like the Haas and the Alpine was. So he genuinely could have stayed up there.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
Especially after the heroics of last year, which they were talking about nonstop throughout the day. So it's good to see that he was okay. It was a fair whack. Good that no one else hit it because it was very close. He could have bounced off a little further.
Yeah,
could have been a lot more carnage there.
Who was it that went through? It was
Gasly first and Hulk behind him. And they had the onboard of Hulk, which just jit out the way, and then Albon tried to scurry forward.
Yep.
And then they send that first red flag out.
Yep.
Which is probably the first. That could have been the one talking point of going, should they red flag that or not? We did have some others, as we'll get into.
Yeah.
But that first one, what did you think about the call they made for it?
Yeah, I think initially I was a bit confused because, like, I think at the end of the day, it's like if there's any, he did hit the tyre barrier. Generally, if there's any repair needs to be done to barriers, generally they will throw a red flag. I know they said they threw it for debris. We'll talk about this a bit later, but I don't know if they've changed the regulations in the last couple of years.
There was plenty of stones out there, but the reason for the safety car is you bunch everyone up so the marshals can go out.
Exactly, yeah.
I think part of it was because they wanted to get the big sweeper truck out there, and they thought, look, they don't want to have to get the truck out there, pull it off, have the guys with the broom. So, I mean, we talked a lot about this offline, of course, but it seems to be that in general the stance is now for the FIA to take things a lot safer. When historically maybe they could have been a bit iffy about it. We saw that a little bit in Saudi with the smashing of the button on a safety car that probably didn't need to be there.
True.
So the trend seemed to be that they were being a little more like, well, if there's even a slight bit of risk here, or it could take 5, 6, 7, 8 laps for us to clean this up, let's just red flag it. It was unfortunate timing. Again, sometimes you can win with a good red flag. Sometimes you can lose. Because we had those few drivers that had box that were trying to make hards to the end, and then everyone else just got to switch that strategy anyway. So not only like you mainly saw Russell get, unfortunately.
Yeah, and he wasn't like calling out saying the red flag was a bad thing. He was just obviously disappointed that it just happened at the wrong time.
And this is how it happened. Even Hamilton was on the radio saying, I wish you did the same with me. We think we made a bad call. And then it did flip in his favour.
And then it worked out for him, So
that's just, that random element that can happen.
So, definite shame for Albon because he was definitely on for a good haul of points.
And his pace over the whole weekend was that car is, as we saw, was very strong on the straights. Which, has plenty of.
Again, for future races, well, at least the next race coming up
the next
could
one
be
coming up is a
very
bit of
strong. I know
Sargent
didn't look quite as strong. I think he was managing an issue in the Williams, I think I heard as well. So a bit of a shame for him because I think he probably could have done a lot better.
Made his way up a lot further than he did.
We'll see what happens at Baku because I think they could show a lot of their strengths there. But we'll leave that for another video. I guess that moves on to, the red flag, obviously free change of tyres. Everyone went onto the hards. I think except for DeVries maybe went on the
Sargent. What are the two?
Sargent, I don't know, just trying something else didn't really work out for them.
Well, they were near the back, they knew on raw pace they weren't going to get it. I guess they were hoping, and a common trend we heard on the radio was they weren't sure if they were going to make it to the end on those tyres. So I guess they went, we'll do a medium soft in case everyone has to box, and theoretically that'd be on a better strategy.
But they just sort of seemed to drop back. Whether or not it was due to Sargent's issue, I know DeVries hit a curb pretty hard.
They said DeVries had an issue. He did have an issue.
I know Yuki had an issue towards the end. A lot of drivers with just like managing issues throughout the race, whether it's let alone finishing the race, that seemed to be its own struggle. But then we had just sort of this real long period of everyone sort of managing. We had, I think, Perez coming up through the field a little bit, but
it was a period. It wasn't too long until we had George, who got slapped a second time with a bit of bad luck. We saw him. I think because I think we saw at the corner of our eye, because we were on the main straight, coming in the final corner, you saw like a bit of a smoky, and you thought, oh, there's someone coming to the pit lane. And then you saw a Mercedes toiling by with spitting fire at the back. We went, that's not good.
Not good,
which one is it? So
I
don't think the cameras had just caught it yet. But of course, it came by us, and we're like, that looks healthy.
Not good. So bad weekend went, terrible for George in the end.
Ironically, it didn't even matter if he was on the alternate strategy, so he kind of just got two nails in the back, which is unfortunate. But
again, what could have been with George, because he he's looked faster than Hamilton, I think.
Yes.
All weekend, like he's been able to respond to any Hamilton.
And in
pace
that, we were saying in that first part of the race, again, we had the restart. Max found it pretty easy to get past the DRS, but before that, they still had the DRS for a few laps, and it seemed like Russell just had really strong pace, and was able to keep Hamilton to come up just behind him in the DRS zone, so that Max couldn't get through. There was a little bit of iffiness because George was already saying, "Well, are we attacking? Are we managing? Are we?" Which is fair enough. Because he's trying to say, "Look, I'm in front here. I can push more if you want me to."
He can dictate the pace, basically. Yeah,
yes. So, which they kind of got into a bit of a rhythm before we saw that big accident. And then, so Hamilton being alone, they kind of needed two cars there to fight him off. Alone, he was just sitting duck, and unfortunately, George wasn't there.
Yeah. So, and he couldn't fight his way through from the 7th as well. He didn't have that opportunity. So, from that point, obviously, I don't know if anyone else would have come into the pit lane, but obviously the pit lane was closed because that's where George parked up, so you couldn't
They'd all just
under
changed
that
anyway, so no one really wanted to pit
then.
I
suppose so. It was a few laps later though, so maybe the I don't know. Maybe if they were thinking they definitely won't get to the end if they want to try something to get a cheap stop. I doubt anything significant would have happened, but that's something that could have been. Could have been in the picture, but obviously couldn't go through the pit lane.
But he was still quite positive afterwards, and same as we went to with Hamilton, because the trend we've seen so far for the first few rounds is, are they even the fifth quickest team at this point, right? Fourth, and yet here they were pretty convincingly the second fastest. I mean, as we'll get into, I guess, the next phase of the race, which you're alluding to, there wasn't too much action, but what we saw was kind of, outside of Max, who was just away out in front managing the gap, which we knew. There was like 4 other cars from 4 other teams basically sitting with each other. You had like an Aston, you had the Mercedes, then you had the Alpine, and you had the Ferrari. And they're all kind of like, none of them was really dropping off that far from each other.
You'd see one close up, and then a couple of laps later,
they're all reacting to each other, which it was a shame none of them really got close enough to have a good move, but the fact they were all there giving everyone pressure, and even when Sainz started to press up, Gasly went with him. He's new to that team, and the Alpine we haven't really seen much to show he should be with that. The top 4 teams now. And he pretty convincingly stayed with them, and he was comfortable on the radio. He was saying, "Look, no, I'm good with this pace." And not even that far back was Hulkenberg, who he wasn't able to keep up, but we wouldn't expect him also to keep up. He was there enough where if one of them had a touch or an incident, he could very quickly close up.
Definitely.
Again, if we didn't have the Red Bulls, this would be like, oh my god.
Perfect.
But it's a shame something more didn't happen in that period, but there was still, it was not just like everyone strung out and you went, well, it's a classic Australian, everyone's strung out. They were giving each other pressure. If they ran straight to the end on those hard tires, we could have seen something exciting.
There was it was kind of the last 10 laps you were thinking, okay, so who's pushed too hard on the tyres? Who's saved a little bit? Has maybe Alonso saved up a little bit? He sort of managed a bit, so that way the last 5 to 10 laps. We even saw that a little bit with Hulk, who started to fall back into Norris, into Perez, who was ahead of. You suspect that he might have started to manage through some wear, and other cars that were saving, like Norris at the end, actually started to surge quite a lot, and Checo found it very hard to get by him, I think. Norris's pace towards the end was very, very good, wasn't it? So again, that's McLaren. I sort of expected them to sort of fall back a little bit, but their pace was okay. It was better than I think it has been.
It was proper midfield pace. It wasn't near the back pace.
Exactly. So, but definitely that whole management period, it was sort of almost looked like it was petering out to something with hints of maybe a couple of people falling back and people trying to fight for moves in the last few races, and then we get the last 5-6 laps worth of carnage.
Well, I think the accident happened, which was a very strange accident. I think the first thing we all thought when we saw Magnussen hit the wall was his tire's gone, something's gone wrong, there's been a failure, because that's what we were building to. But watching back, it just seems like a bad driver error. Just a really bad error. He just naturally went wide. It's almost, it doesn't make much sense. He must have just thought he was thinking about something else, and just not realizing that he was going a bit close. Because it's not like there was a snap. He just, unwound it, tapped the wall. Could have probably been a lot messier of an accident. It was still messy, hence why they called another red flag. But it could have been a lot worse. There was a fast tire moving across the track. That's always really dangerous. Lucky that I think it was it Zhao? I think it might have been Zhao that was
Yes,
behind him.
yeah, he was.
Luckily was able to get out the way and
Yep.
didn't obviously pick up a puncture or anything from all those the bits of metal.
Yep.
Apparently there was a few people in the crowd that got a little bit of metal around the place because of the impact.
Someone got hit. Yeah. With
It led. I looked into that story.
Oh, okay,
there was
here
a
we
post
go.
on social
Yeah,
media
yeah.
of someone who was holding, I think, a part of the wheel bearing on the Haas.
Yeah.
And they said that apparently the officials there, unless he was hiding it, wouldn't let him get away with it because the teams need those big parts back for their investigation and if the stewards need it or the FIA or whoever.
Yeah.
He looked like he had a bit of a cut on his arm. I don't think it was that part because for that bigger part to have flown over the catch fence, I didn't see anything go that high. There's still little bits that can come through because it's a fence. It's still metal railing.
Yeah, okay.
So there's apparently little bits that go through, and some people will collect those because like that you can sneak something through in your pocket. And
True.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He looked like he had some sort of a cut in his arm, but I didn't see anyone corroborate that was from something hitting him. I think he
who
just
knows?
Yeah, but
Yeah. Anyway.
it was still quite a strong, heavy impact.
Yeah. It's still in the concrete wall. So
Yes.
yeah.
And enough that they called another red flag. Which
Yeah.
is probably the more
I think-
contentious one from the drivers out in the field.
Yeah, I think even contentious from our point of view as well, because this is something that that you pointed out as like in the past. It's not. They can call it for debris, and there was a tire on the road, sure, but like a safety car in the past would have been more than enough to clear up what was there.
There's never been a rule to say, if a safety car is going to be longer than, let's say, 4 laps, we should red flag it.
Yes.
In a vacuum, that rule might make sense, but they've had long safety car periods in the past, of 5, 8, 10, 12 laps if they've needed to clean up an incident safely. And it's never really been a precedent. So you really only do a red flag if you might have someone that's badly injured, or if it is like
a wide
massive
area,
damage that you need people on the track cleaning for a while.
Yep.
Well, this didn't really seem to have that.
Not really, no.
There was like a little jink on the barrier, but it seemed like they just pushed that back. There was a fair amount of mess, but the cars seemed to go through without any issue the first time. The guys could just go out and sweep it up after a few laps.
Yep.
It was close to the end, which then starts the narrative. People saying, did they do it because they don't want to manufacture their, they don't want to have a finish
on
under
the safety car.
like they had Monza last year.
Which people were upset with.
Yes. I think in hindsight, some people looking at it went, look, you could have gone either way. There still was a lot of damage and stuff out there and a question mark on the barrier. So sure, it's not like it's not like he's just parked up and they've gone red flag. You're like, he's just parked. What are you doing, right?
Yeah.
So there was something there.
Yeah. So, and I guess it goes with like if they're going on the extra safe side, then it kind of goes with it follows that narrative as well. So the only thing that I've said, and I think even watching the Sky Sports, actually the Sky Sports people, they can sometimes be a bit weird with some of their takes when it comes to these, but I think for the most part they were pretty spot on.
Yes.
Particularly Karun, I think it was very level-headed. But yeah, he said like as long as the consistency is there, like if similar incidents happen, that they do the same thing. Like if this happens, in 8 races time or next year, they do exactly the same thing.
Yes.
Rather than be like, okay, no, this one's okay for a safety car. It's like, well, where's the consistency? Why are you picking one doing this? Why are you picking one do the other? I was fine with either a safety car or a red flag, but I think they just need to stick with one or the other from now on. I think that's completely fine. So,
and I think if he's on the side where it's a little more safe, we can't really complain, right? It's like, yes, there's always going to be winners and losers there, etc. And I guess having a red flag near the end, though, is quite exciting because there's another restart.
Yep.
I suppose because it was Max ahead, everyone was, nice seeing it. If maybe it was someone like Lewis ahead, maybe it'd be, or Alonso ahead, you might have gone, no, there'd be a bit of a gap. But again, that's always going to be the case. Everyone remembers where it works in favor for the excitement. Yeah. And then everyone looks when it doesn't work for excitement and it's boring, and everyone goes, why did you do this? That's just how it works with chance.
Yeah, exactly. And like I think we look back at the Baku one where they did it, 2 laps from the end as well, and you had the big Hamilton lock up, and I think you were saying like if he was like halfway through the field, then that would have caused like a huge collision, but it instead it added to the drama and made it
that was amazing.
Yeah, exactly. So you can't have it one way. You take the good with the bad. With these sort of decisions. So same as the driver, same as like the George decision. You take the the good decisions to pit. That sometimes it works out and then sometimes it doesn't work your way. So I think it's the same with these sort of things. So, but yeah, obviously we had the red flag and then we had the restart, everyone was on
second
softs.
restart, the third start, which was
Yes.
nice for us. We got very treated to a good show.
Yeah, indeed. And this is where a lot of the chaos happened. Obviously, you've only got 2 racing laps. It's pretty obvious the drivers are going to be like, okay, I need to get as many places as possible, and particularly off the line is where most of the places are going to be gained. So they're going to obviously take more risks than normal. And
Australia, the first corner is a tricky one to be. You got to be really careful and safe. But when people are going to be trying to make up some late minute places, they're on softs, which basically none of them drove on for that day. It was in the evening sunset, so it was cooler, sun in the eyes.
No one to be on a track for half an hour.
Yes,
so,
the warm up was unknown. So there was a lot of variables, which meant that it could be a tricky restart. And
as it proved to be,
as we saw, it wasn't just 1 or 2 or 3 drivers. There was about 5 or 6 that somewhere around the way made
some kind of an error,
mistake, or 2 or 3 for various reasons.
Yeah, most notably, obviously, you had the 2 Alpines into the wall. Due to what eventually was Gasly getting pushed off having to go wide off the track, rejoining unsafely.
So Gasly, he was one of the ones that had a fair lockup. It looked like he may have made the corner, but there was Alonso ahead of him who actually slowed up a bit, and he can't, he basically was going to either tap Alonso or he jinked left. And that jink left caused Perez to also have to jink left. So that was kind of one incident ongoing. We had kind of at the back, completely solo, with Sargent just braking way too late.
Way too late, straight into the back of DeVries, taking them both
knocking
out.
them straight out, which was not even caused by anyone else. He just bollocks it up, which... Yes, given that was very hard conditions, he's probably the most rookiest of them all. You go, oops.
Yeah, it's just a bit of an oopsie.
Oh, bollocks, sorry. Lesson learned, hopefully.
Definitely. And then obviously have the signs going in a bit too deep, tapping Alonso, spinning him round, which that's another issue in itself. But and then Gasly coming back onto the track and not noticing that Ocon was beside
he kind of
him.
was a bit rocky, and to his credit, Ocon behind him, he had
very good driving from Ocon.
He had Gasly coming on, and I think it was Yuki to his right, and there was like a box closing, and he could have tried to dodge it, whatever. He actually slowed up quite a lot. He was probably the safest one out there, ironically. He was very aware. He was happy to slow up, even though he was out of the points at that stage, I think. And then he went to the right, which he had space for. And then Gasly didn't realise, kind of was still veering out just to be safe on the tyres because he'd just been in the dirt. And then smack, bang, both of them in the wall. French sad music plays. Dear.
Yeah, not great. And then we had for obvious reasons the red flag thrown almost immediately.
Well, even before that, we had at T3.
Oh yeah, look, Stroll going off. Yeah, way too deep. Yes.
Somehow not ditching it.
There's that little mud puddle, which I know that I think someone from F3 or F2 got stuck in earlier in the weekend. I vaguely remember. But very, very muddy there, so it's very easy to bog
and
there
and he went
get stuck.
Through the mud as well, something
right
like he dodged it. He went through it and got out.
So fair play.
So credit to Stroll there, which I think is something we're happily saying more this year.
Yeah, true.
Credit to him for that. Not for the lockup, but I think given those conditions, given he got out, I'm not going to, slap him on the wrist for that. I think well done for the recovery.
Yeah, definitely. So I don't think you can blame... you could place blame on some people, but I think it's just the chaotic nature of that start and
he
the
also
situation.
Had a close call with the Sainz Alonso when they were contacted.
Yes.
He kind of got around them safely as well.
Then they threw the red flag.
And probably the most appropriate red flag we've seen in a while because you went, you would red flag that.
Definitely. No point delaying that one. So. And it's probably a good thing that they did throw the red flag, particularly before that sector 1, because then we had all this drama with when they had the I don't even know.
It wasn't even sure what lap that was because they kind of said it was 2 laps, but then at some point, like even when they were doing that restart, it seemed to be the final lap. So some question mark on whether they're doing a 1 or 2 lap when they did restart. And then, of course, they came around, which technically counts as a lap.
And then it's lap 58 or 58.
And there was some confusion whether they're on the final lap, whether that was the last lap and it counts because a red flag comes out on the last lap and what that means, or whether we have another lap of like full racing.
It
seemed like information wasn't being fed that well to anyone. I think
particularly at the venue, there was not
the live commentators. I think were trying their best to figure it out, but no one was obviously feeding them information, which was a problem.
Yep.
Even when we watched it back when we were home, there seemed to be a little more information, but most of it came from the reporters running around to all the teams saying, "Do you know what's going on? Do you know what's going on?"
Or going through the regulations and being like, "This is what this is how it works." Or more knowledgeable people who have like seen similar instances in the past, like, "Oh, this is what we've done," whatever in the past. So,
and it was an interesting point because I listened to the Checkered Flag podcast on this. And Jack Nichols, who does the commentary for Formula E, was saying in Formula E for situations like this, and in general, what they've always had is they've had a direct line from the race director, similar to what endurance events have, where for all the team personnel, also to all the drivers and to all of the reporters and that, he has like a direct line where he can basically communicate out to everyone. So in the case of a safety car called, if a VSC is ending, anything like that, he will count it down, or he'll say this is what's going on.
Okay.
It seemed like quite quickly the FIA knew what they were, I guess, going to do, and that was kind of drip feeding to everyone slowly.
Yeah.
In this case, it might have been resolved if they just said, "Here's what we're doing, to everyone. Here's the order, or at least here's what we're thinking. Stand by, right?" Instead, we just had twiddling thumbs. Everyone on the ground was like, "What's going on?" The commentators were like, "What's going on?" The drivers, let's say, seem to know straight away because even Alonso and all that seemed to be like, "Okay, it's all good." We're like, "But he's in 11th. Why is he so happy?" Obviously, if he's not, running around going, "How do we do this?" Blah blah blah. He already knows what the rules will be, and it wasn't like it was that confusing. There was rules in place.
Definitely.
It's not like they had to come up with something new because this was a unique scenario that wasn't covered by a previous example.
But it definitely has been. I think even Alonso quoted Silverstone was
last year.
Yeah, so straight on, it's like, this is what we've got to do, and that's what they end up doing. If you don't go past that first sector or the safety car line, that's at the discretion of them. The safety car line obviously was a bit unfair because it's literally after the start,
and
you can't really take that.
They deemed it wasn't fair to use it, and it says in the rules they can use it if it's deemed appropriate. If it was, for example, in the middle of the second straight between 2 and 3, arguably they might say, "Well, let's use that one," but it was right after the start. And I think doesn't make too much logical sense to use that. And they didn't get to that sector 1 line, so they said, let's
we'll roll it back, and
which...
then they still have to finish technically the last lap, so they have to roll over under the safety car to get that classification. So rather than just stopping the race, because if they had rolled it back and then just completely canned the race, then it means the Alpines would be in the points. I believe they would get their Gasly would get the points.
Some permutations, so they still have to finish under their own steam. The biggest loser, of course, for that is I guess we get onto signs, which I think was said. It wasn't just pure loss. There was some cause to blame there, but for Alpine especially, it was rough. After we just sang out our plaudits on how well that car was running, especially in the hands of
and how well Ocon literally did nothing wrong, and just get taken out in the final stages as well. But that Sainz one is it's a real tricky one because, like you said pretty early on, like almost immediately when they gave it, you were like, but how can they give him a penalty for something that basically didn't happen? Because they roll it back a lap. The classification. He took out Alonso. Alonso did go back, but when they roll it back, Alonso's now ahead of him again. But Sainz still wears the penalty for it. So it's
in that context, I know it's sometimes like a 5-second penalty could mean nothing in one circumstance, but everything in a circumstance like this. So it's always hard to apply, an appropriate penalty for the scenario. It's like, I guess it brings up that cases should they have another penalty they can imply like you just drop 2 places or 3 places after the race. If he said he got like a 3 post-finish place drop, that would have stung less. So maybe you go, that's fair enough, because it still was a quite reckless move. It still could have been it was Alonso spun around and tapped the wall, and he was fine. I think there was a lot of carnage out there outside of that restart period for cars getting away with it, which was quite strange.
Definitely. I think the one thing that we had question marks on that still haven't seen anything on is the safe rejoins. If they were going to give penalties to Sainz for that incident at turn 1, turn 2, I think they really should have looked at the unsafe rejoins of both Perez and Gasly.
Yes.
Because I think both of them, after watching it quite a few times, both of them came back onto the circuit after going off very, very unsafely.
Very unsafely, and neither of them seemed to have proper control. Both of them were wrestling as they came on, which was the big thing that Vettel got pinged for. Us when he came back on, he seemed to be not in full control. He was kind of out of control, and that's why they deemed in Canada to say, look, that's not good enough. You're out of control. You could have done something bad there. That's a big...
And you look at the onboards, and you're like, or from the cars behind of like them coming, I was like, you could have very easily contributed to more of that collision.
Could have come all the way across. Spun, coming back on.
Yep, definitely. So it's like, I think they need to have a little bit more of a look at that, because I think that was very dodgy.
Even if no penalty, even like a light reprimand, so like one penalty point or two
go
penalty
see the steward.
Points. Like they were lucky in a way they didn't hit anyone. It was that doesn't mean you can do it if you
get away with it.
Lucky. Because then you're just rolling the dice, which is not what we want to see.
Definitely
rolling the dice on danger.
Yeah, but after all that, they roll it back and then all cross the line and take the checkered flag. Ends up still with Max. Let's be honest, probably a deserved P1, given the race he ran. Hamilton, very deserved P2, drove very, very well. And then Alonso once again on P3. So I think, that top three is probably deserved, considering how the majority of that race went. So... the one thing I do want to note is that somehow Alfa Romeo got into the points with Zhou.
Yes.
I don't think they deserve points, but given it was a race of attrition, they managed to sneak in.
They did keep out of trouble, and he was ahead of a few people which still didn't get points.
I think Zhou's actually been, like, he's impressed me a lot this year. He's pretty consistently outperformed Bottas, I feel like, in the first few races. But yeah, I don't think that Alfa Romeo doesn't look particularly strong at the moment, does it?
No, it seems to be another car that needs to get like a little lucky on its day. It's not a car you'd consistently think each weekend, like an Alpine or
maybe
they should be getting points every weekend.
Maybe they'd benefit from some updates as well, which is possibly what will be coming next race.
Yes.
So I think next race is going to be a real interesting one to watch. With most teams, I would assume bringing updates. So, but yeah, that was it. I mean, there's so much else we could talk about. We could talk about the very start where Hamilton, or like when they're doing the safety car restart, or the rolling start.
Yes, mess in the restart. There was even some controversy on Hamilton pushing Max off. He didn't, but there's something there. Contact early on between the Alpine and the AlphaTauri. But McLaren getting points.
Oscar Piastri's first point.
Ironically, having no points before this, now like
in the fifth. They went from
Alpine
10th
below
to 5th.
them.
Who would have guessed? Man? And Williams still P10. I think they're dropped right to the bottom. It's they're not the slowest car. It's a wild season.
It's a good thing
so
it's
far.
a long season though.
I think I do think it'll all settle out into where their relative pace is eventually, but at the moment it's kind of a bit all topsy-turvy, but I guess that just goes, credit to show how close that midfield is as well.
Even qualifying, there was some scenarios where the whole field was separated by nothing.
Literally nothing. It was like a second or something. Until Max did that. Like 5/10 quicker, it was like 8/10, I think.
Everyone else was still
it was kind of insane. So I think it is the field is definitely closing. And I do, as much as Red Bull are still flying out ahead, I do think there is potential for them to close the gap. I do think we'll start to see some teams copy that, or at least take inspiration from that DRS design.
Yes.
I don't know how quickly they'd be able to get it done, but I think that's probably where a lot of teams will be looking.
Yep.
I think Aston Martin definitely in their top end speed. If they can get their top end speed kind of close-ish or like up towards Red Bull, they're going to be a genuine threat.
Yes.
I still think Mercedes are an enigma, and I think they could be next race, they could be back down sort of way in the midfield.
You feel like they just hit a sweet spot here, but it's not.
Because I came into this not expecting them to be fast because tyre warm-up, blah, blah, blah. Maybe they figured all that out, or maybe it's another Mercedes. We don't know why we're fast, but we'll take it. So, but yeah, it's shaping up to be a very intriguing season, and that race sort of gave us a glimpse into just how much I think everyone kind of wants to do well. So But yeah, let us know your thoughts. If you have anything else you want us to talk about, or anything else you want to mention, leave them in the comments. But yeah, also stay tuned for, I'm going to try and edit together all these videos I've done.
That's one thing.
Yeah. So I've sort of taken a lot of videos at the event. I'm going to try and Frankenstein together a video, and maybe I'll get that out before Baku.
Yeah.
If you're an audio listener only, then you can check it out on our YouTube, youtube.com/@finalsector. Is it @finalsector or @finalsector YT? Oh, I don't remember.
I think it's Final Sector YT on Twitter.
Oh, I don't remember. It's one of those. You'll find it. But
Go to
yeah,
our Twitter to find the YouTube.
yeah, which we definitely use. I haven't logged on there in a while. It's still there. Yeah. But yeah, that was fun. Really fun weekend. Thanks for hosting me as well. I will try and be back next year, but yeah, very, very, very good weekend. Exciting race, and we'll see you for the next one. Take care, everyone. Bye.
Ciao.